Good evening, and welcome to the Ogden City Council meeting for September 25th, 2012. Let the roll call reflect that all council members are present, and we'll now have Vice Chair Blair lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please rise.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And now we'll have a moment of silence. Thank you. Next on the agenda is a great thing for us, and we have a proposed joint resolution for the Salvation Army, and we will ask Councilmember Van Huser to read that proclamation.
This is a joint resolution from the Ogden City Council and the Mayor. It's Resolution 2012-6. Recognizing the Salvation Army for serving the Ogden community for 125 years. Whereas in 1878, the Salvation Army was started to improve the lives of those living in poverty by offering both physical and spiritual aid. William and Catherine Booth founded the organization after preaching to a small congregation of poverty-stricken people in London. They recognized and fulfilled a need to provide organized assistance and support to these individuals. And whereas the Salvation Army was introduced to the United States in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania in 1879. The organization experienced rapid growth throughout the country and internationally. The Salvation Army's mission is to meet human needs without discrimination, which was compelling to the thousands of later millions of individuals who became involved with this program. And whereas the focus of Salvation Army has been to fight hunger, improve childhood development, and provide religious counsel. The organization assists youths, adults, seniors through disaster and emergency assistance and housing and residential services. And whereas the Salvation Army has provided significant contributions to Ogden's community through community breakfast 5 times a week, Sally's Marketplace, pantry services, grocery rescue, and a voucher system for clothing and furniture. And whereas over the past 125 years, the Ogden Salvation Army has considerably improved the lives of many Ogden area residents by reaching out to those in need and providing vital life services. The Salvation Army continues to aid our community and also provides assistance to people over 100 countries worldwide. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Ogden City Council and Mayor Michael P. Caldwell proudly recognize the Salvation Army for its 125 years of exemplary service. We are grateful for the countless efforts that Salvation Army staff and volunteers provide to improve the quality of life for many individuals within our community. I move that we adopt Resolution 2012-6.
I'll second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Van Huser and a second from Councilmember Heyer to adopt Joint Resolution 2012-6. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Thank you. This passes. And at this time, we'd like to invite Lieutenant Peter Pemberton to come up, and we'll shake your hands and provide this with you and then ask if you'd say a few words. Peter, if you'll stand right here, we're going to squeeze in behind you. Let you show that proclamation.
You have others with you that you'd like in the
Would you
photo?
like them to be up here too, the rest of the board members?
Certainly.
This is the lifeblood of the Salvation Army.
Had a good scouter there, too.
You didn't know you were going to become part of the meeting, did you?
Where to stand?
We need a tape box.
Well, I would like to thank the council for this very wonderful day. It's an exciting day for the Salvation Army. And this is an exciting year for us as well, our 125th year here in Ogden. And through the years, we have tried to do our best to provide services to the community of Ogden. Thank you. In numerous ways. Some have worked wonderful. Some we've had to look at again and revamp. And that's kind of what we're in the middle of doing right now. And we're actually meeting on Friday to look at a 5-year strategic plan that we hope will include building and some other things at the Salvation Army that will show the city that we are intent on being here, hopefully for another 125 years. So I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. This is very important to us, and we really do want to be great neighbors and great citizens. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I apologize. You are all invited on Thursday to our open house, and if you come, we'll make sure that you get some cake and a good tour. So please come. Thank you.
And that open house is on Friday from 3 to 6 p.m. and Thursday the 27th, 3 to 6 p.m. down at the Salvation Army. Thank you. Thank you all very much. Next on the agenda is new business. Next on the agenda is the Planning Commission report. And Mr. Montgomery.
Mr. Chair and members of the council, the Planning Commission looked at a proposed ordinance revision at their last meeting. This ordinance revision was generated by the staff as we had been dealing with a development, and the question had come up about some provisions that are allowed for single family and duplexes, but not allowed for multiple family developments. And so as we took a look at it, and looked at the original research we did when we created the R3 EC zone, we determined that the proposed concept that was before us, we had really not envisioned happening. We looked at some of the older style apartments where they're multi-story, where they have a single entryway, and they really look in the homes. But in this request, the proposal was for a building that looked just like a home to fit in with a historic district. And so as we dealt with the issues of design and setbacks, the question came up about the provision that presently allows the single family and a duplex to have their porch extend into the front yard setback. That is to encourage porches was the one reason that provision was there, and to also allow homes to retrofit that may not have a porch, because a porch is a very important element in that area, in the R3 EC zone. And so as we talked about it, we felt that in situations where, let me just go to this drawing, a building may look like a single-family home in terms of, you think of the four-square style of many of the homes on Jefferson Avenue, other areas in the R3C, that design you would not be able to tell, is that a single home, a duplex, or multiple units. We want to allow it the same privilege as we allow the single family and the duplex. So the proposal is to amend the ordinance to the R3 EC zone only. So this is the only part in the EC zone where you allow multiple family. So it's not the R15 EC or the R2 EC. because we only allow single-family or duplexes there, but the R3C is where we also allow multiple family. To allow these type of buildings that are designed to integrate into the neighborhood and look like a single-family home, to allow them to also have their porch extend in the front yard setback of a maximum of 8 feet. All the other provisions that go with front porches that presently exist in the ordinance would apply to this also. That is that for any new porch that it's open on 3 sides, that the only type of enclosure that can exist around the porch is a bug screen. Things like glass walls or other solid things that may tend to section it off are not permitted in the present regulation for existing or new porches in single family or duplex, so they would also not be allowed for the multiple family either. So all the same porch standards apply, and this just allows these units to also have that encroach into the front setback 8 feet as a maximum. The Planning Commission recommended unanimously to approve this ordinance revision, and that is what's before you tonight for your consideration.
Any questions for Mr. Montgomery?
I would just like to make a clarification that this is only in the east central part of Ogden. It doesn't apply to other areas of the city.
Correct.
Is that correct?
And in the east central is only to the R3 EC. It's not even the R15 or the R2. It's only the R3 EC.
Do we have any projects that are currently on the books that they're going to have to comply with this?
Well, this is the one, this drawing which I'm showing you right now is one where we see taking advantage of this provision.
Further questions? Thank you. Any further discussion?
I'll make a motion, we adopt the ordinance.
Chair, you do have public input on this,
Oh,
sorry.
public hearing. So we'll accept public input regarding this consideration. No public?
I move that we close the public hearing.
It's not a public hearing.
It's just a public input.
Okay, great.
So I would make a motion that we adopt the ordinance 2012-45.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Wicks and a second from Vice Chair Blair to adopt this ordinance 2012-45. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Gochner?
Aye.
Councilmember Heyer?
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens?
Aye.
Councilmember Van Hoosier?
Aye.
Councilmember Wicks?
Aye.
Vice Chair Blair?
Aye.
Chair Garner?
Aye. This passes. Thank you. Next on the agenda is new business. First is modification to the rules of procedures and norms. And Ms. Hawley is going to present this.
Thank you, Chair Gardner, members of the council. Last week we discussed in a work session some updates to the rules of procedure and council norms. Those were discussed in detail at the work session, and there were no concerns with those. So tonight we're proposing one change to the rules of procedure, and that is to add some language under public comments, and this has come at the request of the city recorder's office. So when an individual comes up to make a public comment to you, that they may provide the statement if it's written or typed that they're reading from. And then to the council norms, there are also 3 changes being proposed. One is new language, and that's presentations to the council. Another is the council conference room usage, and this is coming as a change from state law to allow political parties to use city facilities for their meeting nights. And then one last change was a 10-cent increase to the meal increase that you are charged quarterly now due to IRS regulations. There has been a slight increase to that. So those are the changes we're proposing, and I just think it's up to you for approval.
Any questions? Okay, further discussion? Okay.
If there's no further discussion, I'll make a motion to approve.
I second it.
A motion from Councilmember Gochner and a second from Councilmember Stevens to adopt proposed resolution 2012-22. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Heyer?
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens?
Aye.
Councilmember Van Hoosier?
Aye.
Councilmember Wicks?
Aye.
Councilmember Gochner?
Aye.
Vice Chair Blair?
Aye.
Chair Garner?
Aye. This passes. Thank you. And next is confinement of fowl. Proposed ordinance 2012-46, and Ms. Janine Eller-Smith.
Chair and council members. Just kind of give you a little background, the reason for the recommendations tonight. The city currently has an ordinance governing when it's section 12-7-8, which seems to imply that people in the community can have chickens. And we've had some complaints because people have done their research and then they've gone out and got chickens and they said, well, I kind of relied on this. So I just wanted to show you when people go into the city code and they do type in chickens, it brings up this search results. One is the one that we're talking about tonight, keeping fowl enclosures required, and then the other is restraint, making sure that they're not trespassing or running at large. So the current language says it's unlawful for any person to keep any chickens, ducks, pigeons, or other fowl in the city limits unless the same are at all times kept in enclosures, and those enclosures have to be at least 75 feet from any dwelling. And as I said, so this sort of implies that chickens are allowed in the city. This came up earlier in the spring when we were having a discussion about whether or not to pursue allowing chickens in some parts of the city, and discussed this with the administrative staff, and they didn't want to remove this language because there are parts of the city or properties in the city that have non-conforming uses which still need to be governed by these types of rules. This section, Title 12 is health and safety, and so it's just governing health and safety rules, and that's why it's in the code. So what we're doing is recommending adding language to indicate that zoning laws apply in determining where fowl and other animals can be kept. And hopefully when people do their search, at least when they read this language, that it will point them to the zoning, or at least raise a question in their mind that they'll have, that they'll make a phone call. And it's really interesting how things have progressed. You know, if you think 20 or 30 years ago, if you wanted to know if you could keep chickens, you'd probably just make a phone call. I mean, for you to go down and do the research yourself would take, you'd have to go to the library because that's probably where the codes would be available. And it would take a lot longer time than just to make a phone call and get the answer. Well, now, because information is so pervasive through the internet, people aren't doing that same kind of process. They're just looking it up themselves and making their own judgments. So what we're proposing is to add language that says no animals are permitted to be kept within the city limits, including those described in this section, unless allowed by any applicable zoning ordinance pursuant to Title 15 of this code. And Title 15 is the zoning ordinance code title. So that's what we're recommending. I just wanted to raise the issue with you as well, as there are some other issues in the code, similar issues, where if you just did the research, you might believe that, for example, you might be able to keep a cow in the city, or bees in the city. And so what we're also going to do is work with the administration to maybe make an overhaul of this entire Title 12 to maybe clarify again so that people are pointed towards the zoning ordinance. But with that, I just make the recommendation that we add this additional language so that there's no further, at least with regard to chickens, there's no further confusion about whether chickens are allowed in the city. So I don't know if you have any questions.
Where are the chickens permitted then?
They're not, the only place they'd be permitted is if you have a non-conforming use, which means it predated the zoning ordinance that said you can't have chickens in the city. So that would be the only place.
They'd have to have them before the ordinance was established.
Which would be about 1976. So if there were chickens on property in 1976 and then they've been continually used with chickens on there, that would be the only place. So.
Any other questions? Thank you. Any further discussion? Motion, if not?
I'd make a motion to adopt ordinance 2012-46 and also, request that we commit to look at keeping of chickens and bees sometime before spring.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Wicks and a second from Councilmember Gochner to adopt proposed ordinance 2012-46. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Stevens?
Aye.
Councilmember Van Hoosier?
Aye.
Councilmember Wicks?
Aye.
Councilmember Gochner?
Aye.
Councilmember Heyer?
Aye.
Vice Chair Blair?
Aye.
Chair Garner?
Aye. This passes. Thank you.
So just out of curiosity, how long does it take once for this to hit Sterling codifiers where people would look it up and find it? Do we know?
I don't know the answer to that. I'm not sure everyone can hear you.
They'll put the copy of the ordinance in the pending notes section, but usually within 2 or 3 weeks, it's actually in the code.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is public comments. This is an opportunity to address the council regarding your concerns or ideas. Please state your name for the record and limit your comments to 3 minutes. In this form of government, all city personnel are the responsibility of the administration, not of the council. Please discuss any concerns you may have regarding staff with the mayor, chief administrative officer, or department directors. There's no public comment. Comments from administration.
I do have a couple quick things. I wanted to point out, and too bad Jay's not here, but last Thursday, the Utah Blue Ribbon Fisheries Advisory Council voted to designate the 1.1 mile of reclaimed and restored Ogden River as a blue ribbon fishery, which I think is a phenomenal credit, and it took a tremendous amount of investment and vision to get that done. I'm told it's the only urban river with just such a designation, and I think as we look at having clean water and air and access to open spaces, that's really amazing. So for those of you that didn't know, I wanted to point that out. We're really proud of that work. I know I am, and I think they did a phenomenal job in putting that together. And then a couple things I wanted to thank the council, Goal, and CVB for such an exciting weekend. We had Xterra, 150-year Union Pacific anniversary, homecoming for Weber State University, Harvest Moon, and it kept us all on a full sprint for a little while. It was a really exciting weekend for Ogden. So I know a lot of people and volunteers put a lot of time and energy in that, and wanted to certainly call them out and thank them for their efforts.
Comments from council staff?
Nothing tonight, thank you.
And comments from council members?
I think the only complaint I heard about this weekend was there were too many things to do.
That's a good thing.
It is.
The one comment I'd like to make is I was fortunate enough to take the flight to Phoenix Mesa on Allegiant Air, and it was probably the most pleasant experience in flight to date. So I encourage anybody who's going to go that way. It just was amazing. The luggage was easy to retrieve. You didn't have any parking fees. You just walked on the plane, sat down. There was a lot of excited people, and when the flight landed in Mesa, everybody on board clapped. So it was very exciting.
I also participated in quite a few of these events with the mayor over the weekend and a few others that, we're grateful for the Treehouse Museum and their celebration for 25 years. And also with the railroad, 150-year anniversary for Union Pacific. But we had a great designation, a plaque that was awarded to the mayor and made us the Railroad City USA. A great designation. There's only a handful of cities across the states that have this designation, and so we'll proudly display that in front of the Union Station, and the Union Station personnel really put a lot of hard work into having a great celebration on Saturday, so thank you. Anything else from council members?
A motion to adjourn?
We have a motion from Councilmember Heyer and a second from Vice Chair Blair to adjourn. This is a roll call vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Voice vote.